So now that we understand the importance of self-awareness, right? The internal self-awareness and external self-awareness, we need to understand what are some strategies to enhance self-awareness. A couple are self-reflection, writing and journaling, education or training, trusted mentors and supervisors, and pay attention to your emotions and emotions slash having emotional intelligence. So when we think about self-reflection, it's the process of evaluating your thoughts, emotions, and actions to understand how they impact your work and relationships with clients. So regular self-reflection helps CHWs become more emotionally aware and intentional in their work, leading to improved client relationships and professionalisms. So some ways to self-reflect are daily check-ins, where at the end of each workday, reflect on one significant client interaction. So ask yourself, what went well? What could I have done differently? Did I let personal emotions, biases, or past experience influence my response? How did my words, tone, or body language affect the client? Also, practicing mindful techniques where mindful involves being present in the moment without judgment. So, before responding to difficult situations, pause, take a deep breath, and observe your emotions rather than reacting immediately. So, mindfulness can help reduce stress and improve emotional regulations in high pressure interactions. Guided self assessments also help as well. So, using structured assessment tools to evaluate personal strength and awareness for improvement. So, for example, you can take an implicit bias test to uncover subconscious prejudice that may affect clients' interactions. Another method could be writing and journaling. So, journaling is an effective tool for tracking your emotions, processing experiences, and identifying patterns and behavior. So, writing down experiences create mental space to process emotions and develop a more balanced perspective on difficult interactions. So, how do we do that? Is we keep a reflection journal. So after challenging situations, write down your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Reflect on why you felt a certain way and how you might handle a similar situation differently in the future. And honestly, you might write something down and you may not really know why in that moment you acted that way, but you can write down that you acted this way and this made you feel this. And then throughout the days, the weeks, the months, etc., you continue to ruminate or think about why that possibly occurred, and then you could come back and then fill in why that actually occurred or why you feel that way, or you're now aware of it. So now you're thinking, okay, now this is happening. What cued this to happen? Right. And so that would help with having a journal. And then you also begin to see how often does this happen? Is this the first time it happens? Because you may not realize it happens more often than you think. And so by you being aware of it, then you can go ahead and try to find solutions in order to prevent this from happening in the future. So really, we talk about tracking emotional triggers. So note recurring situations that cause stress, frustration, or discomfort. Also identifying growth areas. We are not perfect. This is a lifelong journey. And, as professionals, we should be committed to constantly improving ourselves. So, writing down areas that you're like, oh, I probably didn't handle that the best. Let me go ahead and figure out what I can do better next situation, right? You're constantly are trying to grow personally and professionally over time. An example for a journal prompt for CHWs could be describe a time when a client beliefs or behaviors challenge your own values. How did you handle it and what did you learn? Think of a recent conversation with a client. How did your tone and body language influence the interaction? Write about a time you felt frustrated at work. What triggered your frustration and how did you manage it? Another strategy for enhancing self awareness is education and training. So, continuous learning is a key to expanding perspective, challenging biases, and improving self awareness. The more CHW expose themselves to new perspectives, the better they can understand their own thoughts, processes, and reactions. Because honestly, you only know what you know. And so, there's a whole world out there of knowledge that we do not know. So, you may be dealing with something and you may not know why, and then you go off and hear a speech or go to a workshop, see a presentation or something. You're like, wait a minute, that's exactly what I'm feeling too. That's exactly what happened to me too. And now that experience, that training, that education has now given you language to express yourself. Because oftentimes we know something's going on with us, but we don't have the language in order to express ourselves. So getting educated and trained gives us the language to do that. So some educational opportunities are cultural competencies and implicit bias trainings. So attending cultural competencies and implicit bias trainings, learn about diverse cultures, traditions, and health beliefs to minimize unconscious biases, and engage in case studies to practice culturally responsive care. You also go to a diversity and inclusion workshop. So participate in interactive training, focus on understanding different backgrounds, languages, and social determinants of health. Learn how to adapt communication and service delivery for various communities. We also could look at professional development opportunities. So take public speaking, conflict resolution, and leadership courses to strengthen self-awareness in team settings. Join webinars and conferences on ethical decision-making and emotional intelligence in healthcare. You also could seek feedback from trusted mentors and supervisors. Remember, they're usually when you have a mentor or a supervisor, they have been in the field probably longer than you. They have experience, have this wealth of knowledge that you are able to tap in both formally and informally. So, receiving honest and constructive feedback helps CHW gain insight into how other perspectives or others perceive their actions and communication style. Be open to feedback and avoid defensiveness. Constructive criticism is a tool for improving professional effectiveness. So, ways to seek feedback is simply asking for specific feedback. So, instead of having asking for general feedback, ask targeted questions like, "How do you think I handled that client interaction? Do you see any biases in my approach to certain situations? What are my strengths and areas of improvement?" Participate in peer learning circles. So join CHW discussion groups where members share experiences and provide constructive feedback. Listen to how other CHWs navigate ethical dilemmas and apply their strategies to your practice. Use performance reviews as learning opportunities. A lot of people are scared to be evaluated, but honestly, whether it's good or bad evaluation, that just means, like, let's say you've got a bad evaluation, you're able to use that to grow. You don't know what you're doing wrong until someone tells you. So, getting a performance review is one of the best things that could help you become better in your craft. So, instead of viewing evaluations as criticism, use them as opportunities for self growth. Keep a feedback journal to track insights from supervisors and colleagues. Pay attention to your emotions. All right, that's another big strategy. And I always call this emotional intelligence because it's the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions as well as emotions of others. So developing emotional intelligence helps CHWs respond thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally, leading to strong client relationships. So how emotional intelligence helps? It's recognizing your emotional triggers, right? Oftentimes, CHWs work with individuals who experience trauma, poverty, and some systematic barriers. And those situations may be triggering, especially if you are someone who survived those situations and who grew from those situations. So sometimes hearing someone else's experience could revert you back to that person who was dealing with that. So we need to be aware of how these situations affect our emotions and help prevent compassion fatigue. We also need to practice self regulation. So, learn stress management techniques like deep breathing and grounding exercise. Avoid reacting impulsively when frustrated. Pause and choose a response that aligns with professional ethics. Strengthening empathy for clients and colleagues is another positive thing about this. Is you try to see the situation from other perspectives before making a judgment, right? Oftentimes we only see things from our perspective, but even though we feel we may be right, etc., we have to take a step back and say, you know what? Why is this person saying these things? Right? Why is this person saying these things? And really challenge yourself to take a step back and put yourself in the other person's shoes of why. And even though the why might not be something you agree with, but it still helps you understand because it allows you opportunity to create a response that the other person can hear. and it speaks to their why of why they are saying certain things. So it's really important to use active listening skills to understand clients' needs beyond their words. So example is a CHW becomes frustrated when a client misses multiple appointments. So instead of reacting negatively, they may recognize their frustration and take a deep breath, like, yes, this really makes me upset. And then it's considered, okay, well, why is the client missing multiple appointments? It can't just be they don't want to show up, right? If they're keeping appointments, etc. Why exactly is it? It could be something that they have external barriers, like things that are out of the client's hands. Like they might have transportation issues, they might have work conflicts, may have child care responsibilities, they might have a lot of chaos going in their lives, and they would love to make every appointment, but because life keep happening to them, they are struggling to make it. So it's important to approach the situation with empathy rather than judging. Is there anything I can do to help make these appointments more accessible for you? Right. Another strategy for enhancing self awareness, when we break it down by type, remember internal self awareness and external self awareness. So, for internal self awareness, daily reflection really is helpful. Journaling is really helpful. Seeking feedback and also mindful practices is really helpful as well. And then developing external self-awareness, observing how others react, also recording yourself speaking, really listening for your tone and your clarity in communication. Also, you may want to look at your body language. You also may want to see like what words specifically you're using. How does that sound when they come out? And also undergoing cultural competency training, and then also practice active listening as well.